Do you hear that? That sound, that melancholic music. Dying innocence, you say? No, my child, no. That is the sound of the gift we offer up to the Pantheon. Do not be afraid. Know that we are here to offer you the truth. No, not the lies from the corpse you call an emperor. No, we offer you salvation from the lies you and your loved ones have lived for generations, for millennia. Rejoice, for we are here to offer your soul to a greater cause. Do not be afraid. You shall soon see the light. We have been here for a long time. We are the veterans of the long war, the legacy our father has left to bring his vision to life. The gods demand it, and we are here to deliver. Do not be afraid. This has been coming for as long as man has been crawling out of the caves of Terra. This is your time, our time. Together, we will bring the truth to the galaxy, and through blood, skulls, change, enlightenment, perfection, delights, death, and rot, we will show who the true gods really are, not some corpse on a throne. Do not be afraid.
Welcome back, my friends and family, to the conclusion of the 5-part series of Starting an Army. We have come a long way, and now, as we reach the conclusion of your choice of the multitudes of factions, cultures, and deities to choose from, I bring you the old enemy, the traitor heretic Astartes, the Chaos Space Marines. Now, before we succumb to the forces of the Primordial Annihilator, be sure to, if you haven't already, check out the other 4 videos on my channel, which I will link in the description below. Thanks again for stopping by, and I hope you enjoy this brief summary of the traitors to humanity that have their own reasons for abandoning the light of the Emperor. This is going to be a tough one to present, so after much deliberation and small prayers offered up to she who thirsts for guidance, I've decided to start with the legion that kinda started it all. The legion that brought the Imperium of Mankind into a spiraling nosedive into annihilation and an utterly implosive direction. I present to you, arguably the most one-dimensional and deplorable villains in the setting, the Wordbearers. During the Great Crusade, some 10 or more thousand years prior to the 40k setting, a certain individual managed to manipulate and deceive half of this faithful legion of Astartes down a dark path to chaos worship. In the Warhammer community, it's almost a forbidden name to speak, but for my nephews whom I make these videos for, I'll say it. Erebus. A dark apostle who is so undeniably despicable, he is the first villain everyone can agree they wholly and undoubtedly despise. There's not a single person I know of that says, hey, Erebus is a wicked villain, he's awesome. No. Everyone hates this creature. He's the one who brought Horus Lupercal, War Master of the Luna Wolves, down his dark path to becoming the living embodiment of all 4 Chaos Gods, the ultimate champion in which to use to bring down the Emperor, his beloved father, and humanity with him. I'll stop there because this story arc will take us down a 3-year long road of me retelling the 64-ish books or so I've read on the heresy. Let's just say the Wordbearers are terrible and are the first of the Space Marine legions to have discovered the true nature of the Immaterium and the powerful godlike entities that reside there. They dedicate their lives to what they call the primordial truth, and bringing that truth to every living person and thing that exists in the galaxy. And by bringing the truth, I mean mass execution rituals as offers to whichever god they want power from. They even offer up their own bodies as vessels to house powerful demons, combining the tactical superiority of their enhanced genetics and the ethereal power of the warp to create mutated, possessed death machines to fight against anyone or anything that opposed them. The Wordbearers spread dark gospels and promises of enlightenment to unsuspecting worlds, where people then become dedicated servants or willing sacrifices, well, mostly unwilling sacrifices if I'm being honest, to these dark gods. The Wordbearers aren't sworn to just one of the 4 Chaos gods, rather they are followers of Chaos Undivided, drawing favor from all 4 of them. They have among them some of the most powerful dark apostles who are able to speak in the tongues of the damned, and summon demonic allies or enshroud entire planets or battlefields in etheric energy, allowing demons to spawn on the battlefield or on unopposed worlds to feast on the souls of their enemies. They have powerful psychers and possessed soldiers that can tear things up on the battlefield, especially when they use all 4 gods and their gifts on their troops and space marines. They have a very priest-like aesthetic, wearing red armor, robes, and carrying along their multitudes of scripture, and even carving words into their flesh as words of power to have continuous favor from the gods. If you're in your city and you see troops in dark red, don't rejoice at the sight thinking they're blood angels. Check for tattoos, long ribbons of script hanging from their pauldrons or chest pieces. And also, another dead giveaway is all the horns and spikes sticking out of their skin. Wordbearers, gnarly experts in everything warpish and demonic. If you like having strong troops with blessings from the dark gods and demonic allies on your side, this is a nasty army to field who have an answer to any threat foolish enough to stand in their way. Since we started with some red armored monsters, let's get into another one. The blood red bearing lunatics known as the Worldeaters. Rigged with terrible cabled contraptions embedded into their brains known as the Butcher's Nails, this legion is constantly, without rest, forced into such a blind and mindless rage and excruciating pain that the only way for it to subside is if they're spilling blood. Even if it's their own guys, they don't care, for it does not matter from which the blood flows as long as it does. You can probably imagine which chaos god these psychopaths follow. Yeah, you guessed it, Khorne. No, not that Khorne. Okay, it's getting old, right? Khorne berserkers and other chainsaw and chain axe wielding monstrosities prefer using close combat as their method of choice when it comes to spilling blood. It's also significantly easier to collect skulls for the Skull Throne to please their god if they have, something that can help them quickly acquire a nice stack of these trophies. If you're big on long charges and unmatched hand-to-hand combat and fast charging with minimal shooting, if any at all, then the Worldeaters are a good choice for you. They have a Primarch too, who is basically the angriest creature in the galaxy or even in the warp. Angron, which is basically a fancy play on words that just means he's basically angry, is a titanic ascended demon prince that went all in during the Horus Heresy when he joined his brother to take down the Emperor. There's a reason why he despises his father, the Emperor, but I won't really go into that. It wasn't just to join his brother Horus. There was a pretty big grudge there. Let's just say, I don't think you can really blame him for being the way he is, or why he chose this path, as crazy as that sounds. On the tabletop as of 10th edition, you are able to bring Angron, who is an absolute menace to anything he charges into. You're able to bring him back to life if he gets blown off the table, which is bound to happen to, a model or someone who doesn't shoot. So long as you have blood tokens, which you acquire by, you guessed it, spilling blood. The more guys you lose or destroy, the more tokens you get, and the more monsters or troops you get to bring back into the fight. Some units, when they get shot, are allowed to move a full range of movement toward whoever just shot them. If you like an army that's good at one thing and one thing only, and want to watch your opponent's face stretch in sheer panic at the pure tidal wave of rage descending upon them, this is a great one to start. Do you smell that? No, that's not a fart. That's Mortarion and Typhus's boys shambling up the field to spread their toxic demonic viral pestilence upon you. Meet the Death Guard. Before their fall to chaos, they were the absolute definition of endurance, often being the army chosen to grind away unwavering against their foes, fighting in the mud and guts of their enemies with a constant, slow, and determined push. Now, with blessings from their beloved Chaos God, Grandfather Nurgle, they are even more resilient to every enemy that comes at them. Heck, some armies can't even come within bolter range without succumbing to the toxins they are infected with. Most humans couldn't last 5 minutes in the presence of one lone plague marine without coughing his lungs out, or turning into a poxwalker or something worse. Mortarion is the Primarch of the Death Guard, a begrudging and merciless warrior who was once a loyal son to the Emperor, like all the others, except Angron. Angron hates his father. But Mortarion soon fell to chaos shortly after his brother Horus, and descended down the dark path of dark enlightenment and became a dark demon prince himself. Sprouting wings like a moth, Mortarion is a nasty opponent capable of removing any advantages his opponents have over him. His lantern obliterates anyone within range, and his scythe can carve space marines by the dozen with ease, if they can even get close enough to him without dying of some horrible Nurgle disease. Contaminated tanks and plague mortar launchers bombard enemy positions, while thousands of undead zombie-like walkers shamble up the field to get close. Deathshroud Terminators, which are like Terminators only they're significantly stronger and more resilient thanks to their gifts. They wield scythes like their gene father Mortarion, cleaving through armor like a rusty nail pounding through flesh. They have everything from blight haulers, bloat drones, flesh mowers, and good old half-decomposed space marines that are stronger, well, more resilient to damage anyway, than normal space marines. If you want an army that is strong, toxic, but slow and determined, the Death Guard can and will deliver. Remember the demon Tzeentch? The all-powerful, all-knowing, always changing, always 2 steps ahead of the great game? Well, there's a Space Marine Legion who, before eventually falling like the rest of their brother legions in this category, were absolutely fascinated with the warp. Not fascinated like the fanatical ward bearers who want to just use their power and kill people to feed on that power. No, this legion was fascinated by it because they wanted to understand it, learn about it, and use it to reach higher potential and to become enlightened. Well, the Thousand Sons, Space Marine wizards basically is what they were, delved heavily into the practice of harnessing the power themselves and using it without the blessings of the gods. And without once again turning this video into a 2-hour debate of, about who did what wrong and why they got to this point, I'll just say things worked out very poorly for them. They became enslaved by the Chaos God Tzeentch, who made a bargain with the Thousand Sons Primarch, whom wanted to find a cure for his soldiers' ailment. But instead of finding salvation with the worship of this conniving deity, he was manipulated. Most of this army consists of Rubric Marines, hollow shells of armor that contain literal dust of the Space Marines' former selves. The only ones able to even have an original thought are the sorcerers or the higher-ups like Magnus, their Primarch, who basically doomed them all, or Ahriman, who is still trying to find a cure for the spell he used on the Rubrics and caused the whole issue of being dust-bound armor in the first place. When the Thousand Sons aren't going around scouring the umbral plains or ancient relics or libraries of Xenos races, they are fighting. And what they fight with is nothing short of mind-melting psychic weaponry and twisted immaterial beasts of pure nightmare. The Rubric Marines, the Dusty Boys, are armed with infernal bolters, much like bolters of majority of the Space Marines' Loyalist and Traitor Legions, except these ones are laced with infernal energies that pierce almost anything. Along with these, they use warp flamers. I doubt I have to go into any detail on these. On top of that, some use insane magical Soul Reaper cannons. They have tanks, land raiders, and even demon engines, but the most powerful, in my opinion, are the characters themselves, like Azek Ahriman, or their Primarch beast of a man turned demon, Magnus the Red. Magnus can turn enemy weapons into hazardous pipe bombs that can explode in their hands, or unleash Tzeentch-level hurricanes of psychic death, devastating city blocks with his mind. And, if you're lucky enough, if you want to call it that, you can see him unmake tanks and the most devastating opponents with his staff. Mutilith vortex beasts are another treat the followers of the ruinous god offer enemies, in the form of raw warp energy that can be used to harness beams of immense power or to boost psychers around it. And it's no slouch in melee combat either. Look at this monstrosity. Who would want to face it in melee anyway? These guys are just as nefarious and powerful as all the other Chaos Legions, only they have the help of psychic amplification, taking an already unbeatable army and making them all the more insane. Perfection. Flawless. These are two of the things that pertain to the next Legion who fell from grace. Being a legion that was the ultimate underdog, being the smallest in number during their founding, there was a lot of expectation riding on these guys, especially when the other legions had full ranks, large numbers, and a true purpose and culture. To make up for this drawback, the Primarch, Fulgrim, led a handful of his legion to peacefully take an entire planet through diplomacy and flawless interpersonal skills. These incredible Space Marines would become known as the Emperor's Children. Such an honor to be bestowed upon such a legion, for none of the other legions could match the integrity, dedication, or blisteringly phenomenal abilities of the Emperor's Children. However, not all great things could last. During the Horus Heresy, Fulgrim and his sons was in the tail end of taking over a hostile planet of lizardmen when they stumbled across a temple, where a sword surrounded by drugged-up naked lizards writhed and sang, listening to the most unnerving music they had ever heard. Fascinated by the scene around him, Fulgrim took the sword, spelling doom for himself and his entire legion. The entire Laren lizard people had succumbed to a deity who demands complete obsession and flawless perfection from its servants. She who thirsts. The legion fell to depravity shortly after their Primarch became obsessed with everything around him. The sword he took from the Laren world helped push him toward chaos, and he soon joined his brother Horus in his battle for Terra out of pure boredom. The Emperor's Children use their incredible abilities and obsessions to over-the-top perfection, no matter what manner of art or warcraft they are putting their abilities toward. The music these Marines heard drove some to ecstatic madness, making them do everything in their power to hear the Song of Slaanesh again and to try to recreate it by any means necessary. Some found the pain of bodily harm to be pleasant to a point that I won't get into because it's not appropriate for the audience I'm directing this video toward. Anyway, anything and everything these guys do is cranked to 11 24/7. Noise Marines use sonic blasters to emanate Slaanesh music to make minds literally explode. Exalted champions that crave to find a rival that can best them so they can improve beyond their already insane abilities. One character, as depraved as they come, Lucius the Eternal, is blessed by Slaanesh to be immortal, allowing him to come back to life through whoever is able to fell him in battle, so long as they take pride in doing so. Their shooting is incredible, their swordsmanship unmatched, and their obsessions beyond comprehension. If you want to field an army as beautiful, talented, and arrogant and cocky as these bright pink lunatics, search no further. Grab some drugs, crank the tunes, and enjoy the ride. If only they could just work together. So, do you like justice? How far are you willing to go to achieve it? Do you like bats? Kind of like Batman and how he haunts the night and makes criminals wet themselves at the very thought of you? Well, here's the thing. There's a legion whose roots are tied to such a thing. The only difference between these guys and Batman is they don't put criminals in jail. No, they do far worse things to them, then wear pieces of them on their power armor for decorations. Unlike most of the legions whose gene seed or human participants in the Astartes Space Marine projects were of good stock from different worlds or Terra itself, the Night Lords were recruited as children of convicts from the deep prisons there, and some even being criminals themselves. Most of them were born pale and ghoulish and had evil temperaments from the very beginning. When they were on their home planet, Nostromo, it was completely overwhelmed with criminals. In answer to this, Conrad Kurz did everything he possibly could to inflict as much pain and fear as is possible with the human psyche, ridding his homeworld of almost all of the serial killers and rapists and warlords. When tasked with bringing worlds to compliance, just a small task force of Night Lords could go into the planet and sow fear onto the populace through some of the most brutal atrocities you can possibly imagine. These atrocities included every victim you could think of, and the bodies of these victims would be displayed in city centers, on buildings, hanging from streetlights, and within a few days, the planet would surrender through sheer terror of being the next victim to the Night Lords. As awful and degenerate as these vile monsters are, they always achieved compliance with the least amount of collateral or troop losses. On the tabletop, the Night Lords rely on their stealth and fear tactics, forcing enemies to become battle-shocked for majority of the game. Imagine not being able to reroll any of your dice rolls, or use any stratagems, or hold objectives because your troops are so terrified of what the Night Lords will do to them next. Hard to believe other Space Marines can possibly know fear when they were literally made not to be afraid of anything. Another interesting thing about the Night Lords is the fact they have not fallen to chaos. I mean, not all of them anyway. They're just pure evil at heart, and are only searching the galaxy for a sense of purpose. Their Primarch, Conrad Kurz, despised his own children and neglected them. The Night Lords plunder and ravage unsuspecting planets and anyone else who gets in their way. Sometimes they might answer a call to war from Abaddon to help in his Black Crusade, but they don't do it for a small price. A truly dark and menacing force, the Night Lords are often found tormenting their victims in great halls, like a thing I read about called the Screaming Gallery, which I can't really talk much about in here. Just know, it's literal nightmare fuel. If you want an army that relishes in its enemy's fear and terror, and if you enjoy sneaking up and slaughtering your way through to the top, no matter who's in your way, then maybe the Night Lords could use a new count such as yourself. Have you noticed anything suspicious lately? Someone acting a little out of character? Look around you. Are your friends and family really who they say they are? Or are they... Wait, who's this Alfarius guy? Deception. The ultimate masters of intrigue, espionage, and downright betrayal. These are all the titles that belong to only one legion, the Alpha Legion. For the longest time, nobody knew of their existence. In fact, before, during, and after the Horus Heresy, very few people know who they were or whose side they were on. Heck, even the Alpha Legion doesn't know if their own people are on their side. And this is the way they like to keep things. Mysterious and surprising. Without shame or remorse, this legion uses anyone or anything to achieve their goals. They work with Xenos, Chaos, the Imperium of mankind, and do not shy away from using forbidden weaponry or technology. One moment they could be on your side, fighting along with you against the Imperium of Man, and only when victory seems clear, they pull a reverse Uno card and turn their weapons on their own people, without so much as an explanation. They literally do things to even their own legion to achieve some strange hidden goals. Embedded throughout the Imperium, loyal legions, traitor legions, and Xenos, the Alpha Legion is always there, hiding in plain view, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Almost every legion has some sleeper cell embedded within, reporting to their higher-ups, scheming, planning, and causing sheer panic and confusion wherever they go, using cultists or even citizens of a hive city to embed themselves in the ranks of the military groups, only to sabotage a transport ship, to destroy half an army, or to cause a riot to lure in Space Marines, only to have them ambushed. The Alpha Legion doesn't care who you are and can make you an agent to help them toward a goal that even you won't know what the end goal is. They use abilities in the lore where they will divulge an operation they want you to perform, then lock those orders into your mind with a keyword or a trigger word or extremist word, and then mind wipe you until they need you to enact the operation. Once the keyword is used, no matter how close you've become with the targets of the Alpha Legion, like who you've embedded with and, might even fall in love with, no matter if some of those people are your own family, once the extremist word is used to awaken you, you will sacrifice your own life to see it through without question. These guys come across as kind and welcoming, easily drawing in new recruits. When playing as Alpha Legion, you can use your army to have the ability to have the infiltrate keyword, where you can set up anywhere in no man's land on the battlefield, putting in strong units on top of objectives right off the hop. Another awesome stratagem they have in their pocket is that when they destroy a unit that has the deadly demise ability, like a tank, like something that's about to blow up, Instead of the player who just had their big tank destroyed by your units rolling a dice to see if it detonates, it just automatically does, causing the max amount of damage, causing a massive explosion that can engulf any enemies around it. They can move behind buildings when models get too close to them, and they can use stealth to make them difficult to hit. If you like scheming and being one step ahead of your enemies, the Alpha Legion might be the way to go. Speaking of a legion that owes no allegiance to the demons or the warp, we have our next legion, the Men of Iron, whose hearts are as cold as steel, their will unbreaking. The Iron Warriors, not to be confused with their former brothers in arms, the Iron Hands, the Iron Warriors were once led by their Primarch, Perturabo, a psychotic crybaby of a man who just wants to be recognized for his brilliance. This man ground the resolve of his sons into steel machine-like obedience and resolve. Perturabo and his legion literally did all the heavy lifting during the Horus Heresy, using their brilliance in siegecraft to bring down Rogal Dorn and his Imperial Fists defenders to allow the slack and mindless other legions access into the palace grounds. Once Perturabo and his legion got word that Horus had completely lost his soul and mind to chaos, he said, "Screw this, I'm not wasting my legion's precious time and lives for some demonic cause," and he left. They are loyal to themselves, for they have always been called upon by the Emperor to do the dirtiest of the work against the worst foes that you cannot even begin to fathom. No matter what threat the Iron Warriors came up against or were attacked by, they have always stood with iron pride and resilience. The Iron Warriors do not worship chaos. That doesn't mean that they aren't aware of them or what they're capable of. To this end, the Iron Warriors have enslaved demons into mighty war machines, which they use to devastate their foes, and they will murder and pillage anyone and anything to manipulate the powers of the warp, to bring them raw, untainted strength to their already unbreakable discipline. They can bring down anything, for that was always their sole purpose. Be careful. The Iron Warriors don't just let anyone in. You have to be in it or give your life to the cause. They only recognize strength and discipline, and if your will is less than iron, well, they might melt you down into raw energy and put you into one of these things or something. Next up, we have basically the veterans of the Long War, the original usurpers of the Golden Throne during the Horus Heresy. The Black Legion is the epitome of hate. After their beloved Primarch, Horus Lupercal of the once proud Luna Wolves, who then turned to chaos and aptly named his legion the Sons of Horus, they consisted of the most disciplined and unwavering Astartes in all of the Imperium. To be a Luna Wolf was an honor not many had achieved. Horus had become War Master, not for his brilliance in strategic maneuvering, or his high linguistics to communicate with anyone on their level, or his physical and martial prowess. No. He was named War Master because he was adept at all of these things, and then some. Until, of course, our favorite ward bearer, Erebus, sowed the seeds of chaos and corrupted him. Abaddon, one of the elite guard of the War Master, one of the Mournival, followed his beloved father down his dark path into madness, hoping one day that he might awaken from the cloud of chaos, but it wasn't to be. After Horus was slain by his father, the Emperor of Mankind, the sons of Horus fled into the stars with promises to finish what their father had started. Now, more than 10,000 years later, Abaddon is the new War Master. Considered one of the most powerful space marines around and resembling his father in his physique and mannerisms to a point, he continues his black crusade against the Imperium of Mankind. Being one of the only legions that attempts some semblance of unity and teamwork, they are one of the bigger threats to the many the Imperium of Mankind face in the 40th millennium. With a mixture of all the things I mentioned previously, like possessed soldiers, dark apostles, ancient heresy, eretech, and much worse, they are one of the deadliest legions to face, as they call upon the dark forces when they need them. Abaddon hates the demons for what they did to his father, so instead of fighting them head on, he uses them for his own means, like the Iron Warriors do. If you want a solid, hardened, and vengeful army that can spearhead and crush opponents in pure disdain and martial discipline, the Black Legion is always recruiting. So, there you have it. The Legions of the Doomed Heretic Astartes, and also the end of the 5 video series of starting a Warhammer army. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I also hope it maybe inspired you to choose one of them as a starting point in your new hobby. I'd love to know which army appealed to you in this video. If you wouldn't mind, that'd be great if you could leave a comment. I always reply and welcome any feedback. If you like this video and or the other 4 I made and would like to learn more about these specific armies or about one that might not have been mentioned in this series, let me know. I hope you have fun in your hobby and find an army that matches your playstyle and personality. Thanks again for watching and take care. Maybe I'll see you guys again soon.